Hey gang, today I want to address a question that I have heard a lot. And I heard it while I was still in my abusive relationship. I've heard it since I've left that relationship, and I hear it among other people and their relationships, and it actually drives me up the wall. And that question is, if it was so bad, why didn't you just leave? I want to pull out my hair. Uh, if it was only that easy, if it was so easy to leave, I would have left. You would have left. Everybody would be gone and out of these abusive relationships. Obviously, there's a reason that you are stuck and it's hard to leave. So let's go ahead and talk about some of those reasons and how to address someone who says such a nonsensical statement to you. My name is Amy, and this is Narcaway. My channel is devoted to educating, supporting, and encouraging victims and survivors of narcissistic abuse. You can also follow me on Instagram at Narcaway. All right, let's dive right into the video, guys. How do you respond when somebody says, why don't you just leave the relationship? Or if you've already left the relationship, why didn't you leave? It must have not been that bad if you stayed for X amount of years. How do you reconcile this question? Because inevitably you do ask yourself, why did I stay? I mean, I know I did. I racked my head around what was keeping me tied to this man who I knew treated me awfully. Well, there's lots of really obvious reasons on the surface. Number one, if you're married, you're legally bound to this person. You have to apply for a divorce, you have to pay lawyers' fees, you have to go through a huge process to legally get away from this person. If you have children together, the other parent has rights. You can't just pick up your kids and go. And neither are you going to walk away from your kids and just go. You have to work out a co-parenting, parallel parenting plan in order to separate from this person romantically, yet still both parent your children together. It is not easy. Financially, you may be tied. You may own property together. You may rely on each other to support yourselves. You grow accustomed to a certain type of lifestyle based on your combined incomes. By leaving that relationship and essentially cutting your income in half, you are going to have to sacrifice a whole heck of a lot. Your home you live in, you're probably going to have to sell. You're going to have to move to a smaller house, maybe an apartment, maybe you have to rent, maybe you have to move out of town just to be able to afford your housing costs. Not to mention all of your extracurricular activities. Maybe you have a cottage, maybe you have a boat, maybe you do other things together, and you're going to have to walk away from that. Very difficult. Church. I've heard a lot of stories about how people are exiled from their churches or treated differently or feel like they can't look people in the eye because maybe divorce is frowned upon in their religion. And it really brings some ugliness into an already ugly situation that you need to cope with. You need to figure out how to deal with. And sometimes, rather than dealing with that and confronting that straight up, it's easier to just sweep the problems in the relationship under the rug and continue on in an unhappy relationship. This doesn't just happen in abusive relationships. This happens in all relationships. You've heard many stories where people will stay in a relationship for years and years and years in a miserable, unhappy, sexless marriage just because it's easier than leaving. These are a lot of physical tangible reasons that we have for staying in relationships that we may want to leave. But one of the biggest invisible reasons there is called trauma bonding. Trauma bonding is when you are bonded to your abuser and you cannot leave them for the fear of what will happen to you once you leave. How do you continue your life without this person? You can get over material things, but when you are emotionally bonded to someone, the fear and the anxiety that is created just with the thought of being separated from them is insurmountable. Trauma bonding is actually a chemical bond that's made in your brain. And how it is created is from the roller coaster ride that you're going through with the narcissist. The narcissist will act on a hot and cold continuum. The Jekyll and Hyde syndrome. Essentially, they're going to treat you really, really nice one day. They're going to be that loving, perfect partner. And the next day, they're going to give you the silent treatment or call you names or completely ignore you or just be really, really mean to you. And when you get that really deep sadness and pain from the person you love treating you badly, you need relief from that. And generally, you go to them for that relief. And probably you've learned how to manipulate and play a game and do the dance with them in order to get them to love you again. And they will love you again because they need something from you. They need your love and adoration. And so when they love you again, you are relieved of the pain of the silent treatment and the name calling. So you are even more stuck to them because you're afraid and you're in fear of them treating you horribly again, which is inevitable. So you have this honeymoon phase where things are good again, and within probably not a very long amount of time, they're treating you awfully again, and they're blaming you for something that's gone wrong in the relationship. They're making you at fault, and then they're punishing you for that. So what's happening is there are actual chemicals that are being fired off in your brain every time something like this happens. So when you're in love and things are good, you've got dopamine and serotonin and all these wonderful love drug chemicals that are shooting through your brain and giving you that loving, lovey-dovey, happy feeling. This is good. This is what's making you feel happy. But when they all of a sudden turn off on you and attack you and put you down and make you feel like you're this big, you've got stress hormones flooding your body. You've got cortisol and adrenaline and the chemicals that are responsible for the fight or flight, because you've now got to defend yourself or you need to run away from this abusive creature. And so you've got those chemicals now flooding your brain. And then, like I said, they're going to make up with you again to get what they want out of you and give you that love back. And you've now got the oxytocin and the serotonin and all those chemicals flooding your brain again. So it's constantly firing your brain, all these chemicals and hormones and stress chemicals that are just in conflict with each other. You're not stable. You're up and you're down and you're up and you're down. And you might remember from it, if you've already left the relationship, when you were in the relationship, how much you cried, how much sadness you actually had, as opposed to when you've left the relationship, how steady you are. You can probably see that you've really leveled off. You don't cry for no reason. You're not just down and depressed in the dumps. And that takes a while to level off. The thing is, your body is chemically used to shooting up and shooting down and up and down and up and down in these stress and love and anxiety producing hormones. This is what causes the trauma bond. You're bonded to your abuser to take that pain away, to bring the levels back up. But the problem is they never ever stay. And so you're walking on eggshells and you're in a state of heightened anxiety waiting for the ball to drop, which it inevitably will. This is why it's so hard to leave your abuser. It's because you're chemically addicted to them. Much like smoking or drinking or drugs, you have a chemical addiction to your abuser. In addition to everything I mentioned in the beginning of the video, it's not easy to leave. And I don't think anyone should ever judge anyone else for how long they've stayed with an abuser. They might see it. They might be very aware at how abusive their relationship is and how toxic it is and how unhappy they are. But that does not alone give them the strength, the courage, and the means to walk away from that relationship. And that's why these types of videos on YouTube, I think, are really helpful to educate people and to let others know that if you see a friend in that situation, you know what they need more than anything? More than you asking, why didn't they leave? Why did they stay with this horrible person? How about offering support and encouragement? You know what? I know you're going through a really hard time right now. I know you're not ready to leave, but when you are, I will be here for you. I will help you in whatever ways I can. That's what somebody in an abusive relationship needs. They need support. They need to do it in their own time. They need education. They need to know what's going on. They need resources in order to get back up on their feet after leaving. What they don't need is more shame on asking them why they stayed so long, or shaming them in, or undermining them, saying, well, it couldn't have been that bad if you stayed that long. Guys, I hope you liked this video. If you did, please click the thumbs up icon. And if you don't already subscribe, please subscribe now. I'll see you in the next video, and I love you all.